We keep chugging along in the Royal Rumble review series. It's time to talk about the 1989 Royal Rumble, where you really saw the beginnings of the fraction within the Mega Powers. This is the first Royal Rumble that was actually offered on pay per view, where the 1988 Royal Rumble was done as a special on the USA Network, drawing a monster cable television rating. This 1989 Royal Rumble, like the first couple of years, frankly, I think if you're going back and you love the history of the professional wrestling business and you want to watch for certain things and how they played out and how they were done, that's the only reason to really go back and watch these shows, the first couple of them, because they're not exactly visual masterpieces and they're not exactly outstanding. I'll put it to you that way. The 1989 Royal Rumble did have a couple of major highlights for me, though, again, as an old school WWF 1980s wrestling fan. But the opening match was not one of them. Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, that is, and the Hart Foundation taking on Dino Bravo and the Fabulous Rougeaus in a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. The only thing worse than being subjected to Dino Bravo trying to break the world's bench press record at the 1988 Royal Rumble and having Jesse the Body Ventura trying to hype it up like it's the greatest, biggest fucking thing of all time is seeing Dino Bravo involved in a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. Period. The only good thing about this match is that Dino Bravo's dead. Moving on. You had a women's championship match, the WWF Women's Championship. Rockin' Robin versus Judy Martin. And to me, the highlight of this obviously would be Sensational Sherry coming out and saying that neither one of them could beat her and that she wanted a shot against the winner. You almost wish, watching this match, frankly, that Sensational Sherry would have been the one in the ring instead. Rockin' Robin won, and I don't care. Before this match, though, one of the things I do care about was the epic pose down segment between the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude. This shit was classic. They had 4 different categories. Warrior blew Rude out of the park. This is all about steroid up magnificence and pose down awesomeness. And this was building and continuing the heat between these two guys and really establishing and setting the table for their IC title match at WrestleMania 5. But this segment was fucking awesome. I miss when these segments used to be the highlights of shows. You could do simple things like this, a pose down where you got the fans involved, and of course they were unanimously behind the babyface. And then the heels take out the babyface. It's fucking awesome. One of my favorite, perhaps, Royal Rumble segments of all time, no question. One of the weirdest matches, I think, in Royal Rumble history was when they put King Haku up against Harley Race. There's some story and history behind this, obviously, which I won't get into here in terms of Harley Race being the king and then Haku takes the crown, da 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 da. But it's really odd because you had 2 heels wrestling each other at a time where that was pretty much unprecedented and unheard of for the most part. And it just seemed like with 2 legit, physical, tough badasses, like legit shoot badasses like Harley Race and King Haku, you would expect a physical knockout brawl. And that's exactly what you got here. But I don't think the crowd back in 1989 really understood what was going on here. I don't think they really knew what to do. They didn't know how to react. They didn't know who to cheer for. So they just kind of sat on their hands the entire time. A match like this in 2013, 2014 now, probably would get much more interest, would be thought of much more much better, I should say, and would have gotten a much bigger reaction and much more fan participation and interaction than this match did back 25 years ago in 1989. But of course, the main event of this show was the actual 30-man this year, whereas in 1988 it was 20-man. This year was a 30-man over the top rope battle Royal Rumble match. Now, this was before the time where the Royal Rumble winner got a title shot at Mania, but the Royal Rumble match, which I feel like most years it should, main evented this show. I feel that's the way it pretty much always should go. Unless you have certain special feuds and matches that deserve to be the main event. In general, I think the Royal Rumble match should always main event the show, and it did here. A couple of things to note. Mr. Perfect had broken Bret the Hitman Hart's record the previous year of 25 minutes. Perfect went over 27 minutes. This was when he was new to the company. They were establishing the Mr. Perfect persona and character, and he went a very, very long time. Hulk Hogan was dominant in this Royal Rumble. He eliminated 10 people, which was a record that would stand until 2001 when Kane finally broke it with 11. Now, Austin a few years before that eliminated 10 to tie it, but it took 12 years until somebody actually broke that record. Hogan was all over the place. He was knocking people out left and fucking right. But the biggest thing to me about this Royal Rumble match, above all else, is that this was really setting the table for the big split of the Mega Powers, which would lead to the main event at WrestleMania 5 when the Mega Powers exploded. Big John Studd won this Royal Rumble, and yeah, that's not really what you remember. That's not what you really talk about. Hogan accidentally eliminating Randy Savage. You would have thought Hogan would have won this damn Royal Rumble. That's one of the things that surprises me to this day is the fact that he didn't win this Royal Rumble. I'm really surprised at that. The fact that they had Hakeem and the Big Boss Man eliminate Hogan, that was quite interesting. And that was, to me, a bit of a gutsy booking decision back in 1989 to have Hogan not win. That was almost unheard of in the WWF at that time. It really was. But this, like I said, to me holds a special place because of the fact it was really the beginning, and then later on the next month of February at the main event, you had Hogan and Macho Man. It kind of came to blows in their tag match against Akeem and the Big Boss Man. We all have seen that footage, I'm assuming, hundreds of times over. I wonder if you've seen the Macho Man's doctored footage. That was classic. The Mega Powers, after maybe the Road Warriors, are my favorite tag team of all time. Always hold a special place in my heart. And when I think about the Mega Powers, I think about why I fell in love with professional wrestling as a form of entertainment, an art form, a sport, whatever you want to call it. And I think about how awesome and epic it was to have the two top baby faces in your company, Hulk Hogan and freaking Macho Man Randy Savage, being aligned with each other and being tag team partners. For today's audience where they might sit there and say, oh my God, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan being together would be awesome as a tag team. Probably would. John Cena and Randy Orton as a heel tag team would probably be phenomenal. Face tag team, not so much. These are two guys at the height of their powers, joining forces. The mania meets the madness, and they become the Mega Powers. The way this whole storyline was done was phenomenal. The way these two were interwoven and interacted, I thought was well done as well. Back then, and even now, I mean, they got to the point. I was always a Hogan guy, even though I love Savage so damn much. But when Savage turned on Hogan, I hated Macho Man for quite a while, legitimately, because he turned on my boy Hogan. That's, to me, is what professional wrestling used to be able to do. That's what it used to represent to me. Was it could get you to suspend your disbelief. And, even as a kid, you could say whatever. But bottom line is, it got me so sucked in and so emotionally invested. When Savage turned on Hogan, I was crying. And I said, why, Randy? Why? He's your best friend. You guys are the Mega Powers. That's how awesome professional wrestling used to be. While this is not a great show in terms of aesthetics, and this did not have several great 5-star classic matches, this Royal Rumble here does, at least if nothing else, hold its own special place in my heart for the Rude Warrior pose down and the real beginning of the end of the Mega Powers with Hogan accidentally eliminating Savage. That's what I remember about this show. Those are the only things I really care about on this show. Tune in again tomorrow when I review the 1990 Royal Rumble when Hulkamania reigns supreme, brother.